Now, from here, we are going to create the cell itself. Um, yes, from here, we are going to create the cell itself. For that, I'm going to use Pascal again. Um, I am, however, going to erase all of this because I'm too lazy to create a new project. Okay, so the color scheme, I think for the cells, a darker blue would look nice. I don't know. I'm not artistic, as you should have seen by now by my really primitive uh, uh, ways of portraying ideas and things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a. I don't think a darker blue should be the way to go here. Um, I think a far lighter gray, yeah, that should be able to. That should look nice. I'm just going to fill it and then yet again create a darker version of that color, just a little bit more, and then on the sides create yet again a border. There we go. And yet again, I'm going to export it as a 32 by 32. I'm going to download it or extract it directly into my Sprite and Stuff folder in my project. And I'm going to name it cell sprite.png. Okay, and minimize. So now we have a cell sprite. Now, the next thing we should do is create the actual cell pieces that we are going to move around. So right click on your hierarchy and just create empty. And are going to rename that as cell piece. Now on this, I'm just going to reset the transform. And on this, we are going to drag our cell sprite. Can we? Yes, we can. You should drag the cell sprite directly onto your cell piece. Now, the reason we don't put the sprite renderer on the actual parent component is you want to keep your logic and your visuals separate. I will explain that a little bit later in this video. But now we need to get that sprite a bit larger. A way to do that is with pixels per unit. Yet again, set that to 32 and apply. And now you can see it fits in nicely within the grid we placed. Now, the reason we are doing the cell separately from the grid is because we want to move them. At this moment, we are not going to be able to interact with the grid. There are definitely ways to do that, but it is a lot of code unnecessary for a small project like this. So after we have a cell piece, the next click on cell sprite, right click on UI, text or add a text component or a text mesh pro component. I personally use text mesh pro. You will get this window that says you need to import text mesh pro essentials. If you do not have access to the internet, you can use the normal text component. I will be using text mesh pro because it makes things look a little bit nicer. Okay, with that imported, now we have a new text mesh pro. But as you can see, new text appears so not where it's supposed to. That is because in our cell sprite, it created a canvas on top of that. So if we go into our scene view, and if we click on our canvas, this canvas is currently on screen overlay. If you zoom out a lot, you can see that's where our text is. We don't want that. We want that text to appear not in, if you can see right here, not in screen space overlay, but in the world space. So if we switch that to world space and then just reset the rectangle or the rectangle transform, press F to focus. Now we can focus, but now we have a new problem. It's really, really big. So one way to fix this is with the width and height. You can make that 10 or 1. I will personally be making it 1 because it fits within the cell. It fits the cell really nicely. And now the text with TextMesh Pro, we can select a 1 for the font size, and let's just put a 0 or a, yeah, let's put a 0 there for now, and just buff up this font size to see when it actually starts to appear on, and it doesn't seem to be appearing. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the reticle transform, and on the canvas it is still okay. Over here I'm going to set it to 1 and 1, and it's still not appearing. Oh, there it is. So as you can see, it's still very large, and we can scale it down to around about, let's say, font size equals to 1. That should be fitting nice into our cell. Now from here we can just select with alignment, middle, and that will align it to our cell. Now I'm just going to leave this as called text, canvas, cell, and cell piece. If we go to our game view, you can see it fits nicely. Now you can import other font assets to make it look better. And at this stage, we can delete the cube, and now you can start to see our game taking shape. So now, what I am going to do is I'm going to click on cell piece, add components, and now we're going to add our first C# script. All I'm going to do is within the search bar, I'm going to type cell piece, and I'm just going to hit enter and enter again. And you will now see Unity has added a script on cell piece for us, and it is within assets right there. I'm going to create a folder for scripts and just going to drag it in there. So on cell piece, the reason I'm doing it like this is the cell piece is going to tell the computer or the rest of the program which number this specific tile or cell is. It's also going to allow us to get the current board state. It's also going to allow us to explain to the computer what's happening on the board at this very point at this current point in time. So all you need to do for now is double click cell piece, and it will open up in your code editor. For me, working with C#, it is Visual Studio. You can also use Rider or Visual Studio Code. There's a bunch of others you can use as well. So all I'm going to do is right on the top here is, come on, there we go, is I'm going to create a header attribute, and within that I'm going to say cell options, and under that I'm going to create a public int, and what this specific integer is going to hold within the script is what cell this is. So I'm just going to call it cell value, and because I'm using TextMesh Pro, at the top here I'm going to say using TM Pro. And what this is going to allow me is I'm going to create a new header called cell UI, and then I'm going to create a public TextMesh Pro UGUI. This is the component we put on the cell that we set as 0 before. The reason why this is important is we can set this via code. This is not necessary, but I just like having this functionality built into the program. And I'm just going to call this text asset. Now, all we can do from here is go back to Unity. And now you can see we have cell options, the cell value, and the text asset. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this TextMesh Pro into this slot here. And I will show you now what that does. So go back to your code. In the start, we can say text asset dot text equals to cell value. And because it's a integer, we just add to string. Control S to save, and we go back to Unity. Okay, when it's done compiling, cell piece, we can add 999999999 there just for a test. And when we run the program, we should see that 0 turn into a ridiculously large number. And there it is. So what we can do from here, I'm just going to set that to 0, is we need a cell on each and every one of the positions. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go into scene view, position myself so I can do everything well. Control D to duplicate, and while holding control, just drag the cell pieces over. And once I have 3 of them, all I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of them while holding control, select all of them, Control D to duplicate, and still holding control, just drag them all down. And then Control D again, and then drag them down. Now, as you can see, we have a whole bunch of cells with we can select all of them. Now, just to make things a little bit easier to understand, I mean, now we see just a bunch of zeros. We can essentially delete the last one, number 8, because we need an open cell to move around or to move other cells into. So at this stage, what we are going to do is just go into every single one of them and just change the number 1, the text, the cell value to every single one from 0 to 7, and just change the text asset itself to represent that value. So in number 1, which is this one, it should be 1. Change that to 1. And the Text Mesh Pro, I'm going to put that as a 1. Okay, so once that is done, if you switch into the game view, it should look something like this. Now, that blue color there, you could put a tile there, but I think it's essential to differentiate between your tiles and your background. Now, I personally just change that color by going into main camera, and right here by clear flags, I just use solid color, and then I just change this color on the color wheel to whatever color I want. I think a nice gray like that would suffice. So now we have all the things almost all the UI things we need. Next, we are going to create our overlay of menu buttons or things you are usually used to when you are in a game.